Eden-Monaro.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. And it's very important that we discuss all the full implications of this bill, which is somewhat described as the child of Frankenstein of the 2014 budget in many ways. We heard reference, of course, to the energy rebate. Well, we've heard a lot from the government about soaring costs of energy, which has happened under their watch, and so there's been no time when there's been a greater need for support for people dealing with those costs, which we know will come down with a greater application of renewable energy. All we need now is someone to step up and actually manage that transition and manage the grid, which is the real story. But I particularly want to focus on one specific issue that emerges from this bill. Last year, on the 26th of November, I travelled to Tumut as I was deeply concerned about the impact that the changes to childcare funding would have to vital services in our region, in that area, the Snowy Valleys, Southwest Slopes area. And the Snowy Valleys Council had written to me stating that their mobile childcare service, Puggles, would have its funding cut, and rural and remote families in the region wouldn't have access to quality childcare services. I met with parents from all over that Southwest Slopes region who are deeply worried that the award-winning mobile childcare service that they relied on, Puggles, would no longer be available for their children. The Puggles Mobile Children's Services van, run by the Snowy Valleys Council, has provided services to rural and remote venues across southern New South Wales for the past 16 years. The federal government was seeking to introduce the Family Assistance Legislation Amendment Bill 2016. At that stage, the criteria for funding was unclear, and there was no guarantee that services like Puggles would have continued to receive funding. This year I'm even more disappointed, as the government is seeking to introduce the Social Security Omnibus Bill that provides even less certainty for Puggles Children's Services and to the people that utilise that service. The Social Security Omnibus Bill is designed to streamline childcare arrangements as a budget savings measure, but it fails to take into account the differing circumstances of delivering services to rural and remote communities. The Snowy Valleys Council had modelling done on the impact that the streamlining will have on their mobile childcare services. This indicates that if a new funding package is introduced, Puggles will have to cease servicing 2 of the 6 venues it currently services. And it's likely, Mr Deputy Speaker, that increased costs will reduce enrolments at other centres owned by the council, and this threatens the overall viability of that service. These changes also stand to impact the 85 children and 70 families that use the Puggles service in the region, as they'll have to reduce their access, or have reduced access, and ultimately no access at all to this service. And we know that quality childcare is such an important part in the development of young people, and for these children to have their service reduced or cut is just not good enough. The Puggles Mobile Children's Service ensures that our remote children are receiving 6 hours of early education a week. It is a recommendation that children receive 15 hours of early education a week, and as a result, the government's proposed changes, parents are seeing that their children will receive no early education. So not only meeting the recommendations and recommended levels, but nothing at all. Sheridan Ingold, a local parent speaking at the meeting that I mentioned in Tumut, said that Puggles provides a service for our children to thrive and to get early intervention and education care where otherwise they would miss out. It also serves as a hub for families to meet and socialise in our small village. Award-winning childcare teacher Kylie Wildsmith, who manages the Puggles Children's Service, stated that there was much to be lost in our area if these reforms go ahead. If passed in its current form, this policy will render many budget-based funded mobile children's services unviable, with the likely result that the early education and care of isolated children will suffer. It is deeply concerning that the mainly Aboriginal community of Brungle is set to be impacted by these changes. The early years are the best opportunity to lay a solid foundation for a child's future. Time and money spent in the years before school have been shown to be a much more cost-effective investment than investments made at any other time. The skills that children gain as preschoolers form the basis for later skill development. As a result of a quality education before school, children enter school with marked differences in the cognitive, emotional, attention-related self-regulatory learning and social skills needed for success in the school environment, and these differences influence later academic success. Mobile Children's Services provide flexible, responsive, innovative services to children and families experiencing social, geographical, cultural or economic isolation. The children that access services through Puggles stand to lose much more than a service. They stand to have their future negatively impacted. It is clear from my regular community meetings in Eden-Monaro that both the New South Wales and federal coalition governments are simply out of touch on this issue. They refuse to explain their policy decisions to that community. They are too lazy to run proper community consultation processes, and they are hypersensitive to criticism. While all governments should constantly monitor how efficiently funding arrangements are being delivered, and I certainly am happy to concede that, if they want to make change, the important thing is to bring everyone along. Our mobile childcare services and parents are being left completely in the dark on this.